So welcome to Empower to Lead's team call for May 18th. I wanted to talk about fear tonight because I feel like across the board there is a lot of things that I'm hearing from coaches, things that are holding people back. And I wanted to really nail in this topic about facing fears because I know that it is such a key to not only progressing in your business, but progressing in your journey as a person and even in your personal life. So I'm going to go through some really, I think that are really helpful topics and just kind of like bullet points of action steps you can take to overcome these fears. And then I also have asked Laura and Kelly to share some of the fears that they have overcome and their, top tips of how to overcome fears so that you're not just hearing this from me. Because I don't want to just be preachy to you and make it seem like I'm the only one that's faced fears, because there's a lot of coaches on our team that have done incredible things by facing their fears. So I'm hoping that this will be helpful to you. I'm hoping that you'll have some takeaways from it. And I also hope that in facing your fears, it will inspire you to go ahead and pay that forward to help other people face theirs. So before we get started, does anybody have anything they want to shout out or any recognition before we get started?
I just want everyone to cheer Michelle along because she's halfway to Emerald.
Yeah. Cool.
It's so close we can taste it.
Does anybody have anything else they want to shout out? No. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to dive into some action steps. Okay. Stop. Let me try to get him to calm down. I'll be back in 1 second. One of my fears is that my kid will never cooperate for team calls. Okay, so before we dive into some action steps about overcoming fears, I want you to think right now about at least 3 fears that are holding you back, whether it's in your business, in your personal life, in your health and fitness journey. Fears that you know that are there, that you deal with them daily, and that you haven't yet been able to face. And if you want to, you can share them in the comments. And if you don't want to, write them down on a piece of paper, okay? When you're done writing them down, just give me a thumbs up, and then I'll get started. Does everybody have them? Yes, I see that, Marina. For good reason. Okay, I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna hope that everybody has them written down now. Very common. Thank you for sharing, Laura. I'm just going to be bold and say that the fear of not being good enough probably runs across the board, because I know that that has always been a fear of mine as well. Fear of rejection. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give you about 12 to 15 steps. I kind of have them scattered all over the place in my notes, but I'm going to try to go through them in somewhat of an organized order so that hopefully this is something that you can take notes on and go back and practice with these things and hopefully really push past these fears that you've written down or shared in the comments. So the first thing to overcoming a fear is, before that you can overcome this, you need to have awareness of what that fear is. And that is why I asked you to write these down or to type them in the comments. Because if you want to push past a fear, you have to be really clear on what those fears are. And you have to kind of dig a little bit deeper to get to the root of why you have these fears. Because I know for me personally, and I'm sure that many of you as well can relate, that fear is learned. You're not born with fears. You know, you don't have fears until you get into childhood or into your teens or have experiences as an adult that give you these feelings of fear. So it is not actually things that we are afraid of. It is our perception of these things that we fear. So it's like that acronym where it says, fear is false evidence appearing real. So if we want to really learn how to conquer these, we have to know, first of all, be aware of what they are. And second of all, dig deeper to figure out where those are really stemming from. And this is going to take you being honest with yourself. And this may be something that you have to sit down and really think about, because I know that it was for me. Once you have a clearer idea of what those fears are and maybe what they've stemmed from, the second thing is to get really specific about what it is that you are afraid of. So let's take one of these ones from the comments for an example. So fear, let's say fear of judgment or fear of not being good enough. This was single-handedly probably one of my biggest fears, not just with this business, but in my life, because this is something that I've felt from a really young age. I was on swim teams where it was constant competition of who's good enough, who's faster, whose body is better, who's, you know, who can do better at practice, all these kinds of things. And that fear of not being good enough started for me at a really young age. And then I think as women, you get into, you know, high school, and comparison and relationships and things in your life happen that just, maybe it's even family influence or friends, that you start to feel like you're not good enough. And it's not legitimate. It's something that we create in our own minds. And if we're going to move past those things, we need to get specific of why it is that we are afraid of it. And, you know, if your fear is of not being good enough, you have to think about it in the sense that, at least this is how I think, that you have to learn self-love. Like, you have to learn self-love first and foremost, because if you don't, nothing is ever good enough for anybody, for anything. But back, that was a tangent, but to get back to being specific of what it is you are afraid of, you have to kind of think about this as sitting back and being an observer of your inner conflict. So sitting back and thinking about, if this was a friend that was telling you about this fear and why you have this fear and this deep rooted, you know, reason that you have this fear, what would you tell somebody to work past it? You know, what would your advice be? And kind of look at this from outside yourself, because when you can do that, oftentimes you see that it's not really as big as you make it out to be in your own mind because of your own experiences. So number one is awareness. Number two is get specific. Number three is curiosity. And, you know, I think it's really important that we kind of investigate what it is that creates these thoughts that we have. You know, is it out, like we talked about, is it outside influence? Is it past experiences? Is it things that people in your life right now have said to you? Is it maybe that you don't have friends that are super supportive of what you're doing with Beachbody, or maybe even your own family isn't supportive? You know, is there things that people have said to you, you know, body shaming in the past that makes you fearful of sharing your journey on social media? is that maybe even this, preconceived notion of what network marketing was that makes you feel like you're afraid to share the opportunity because you once thought this was a scheme or a joke or something like that. There is a million different reasons why you have to get curious about this, so that you can be really clear on why you're generating these thoughts around this fear. The next thing is to now switch into the now, to the present, to be just kind of calm and quiet with yourself in the now, and think about whatever this fear is that you have. What is this trying to teach you? What is this trying to teach you that you need to learn how to move past in your life because you've struggled with this long enough and it's time to put it to rest? Also thinking about things in your life that are fears that you have already overcome. And I think that this is a really important one, because oftentimes we don't even stop to think about fears that we've overcome or things that we've moved past and how that's affected us now. And it's important to look at that as well so that it gives us more courage to move past our current fears. The next thing is to realize in thinking about in the curiosity part of this and then in the now part of this, to think about you have to realize that you are not a prisoner to your fears. You have free will every single day to think however you want to think, to change whatever you want to change, to take action to overcome whatever these fears are. And as soon as you realize that you are not a prisoner to these fears, that it is a choice, I know for me that kind of set me free, because I realized that these fears no longer had power over me unless I chose for them to. So kind of shifting from that victim to victor mentality. The next thing is, and this is a big one, this is a huge one, is gratitude. And you might think, well, what the heck does gratitude have to do with fear? And this is all about shifting your perspective. So if, let's say, I'll use, for example, you guys know that at the last Super Saturday that I had the opportunity to speak on stage. And this has been something that was on my vision board since I was a brand new coach. Speaking publicly scares the crap out of me. Like, I had to write my success partner to get her to talk me into saying yes to it, because that's how afraid I was. And I knew that because I was afraid, that it was something that I had to do because it's something I really want to do. And I wanted to do it because I wanted to have the ability to influence people. So if you can think about your fear and you can think about a way to find gratitude in it. So, my fear of public speaking, I shifted that to being grateful that I had the opportunity to speak and make an impact on other people. So maybe your fear is not being good enough, or fear of judgment. So right there, that's something that you can find gratitude in, and you can share that, because there is probably 95% of your Facebook feels the exact same way, and maybe you're the only one that's brave enough to talk about it. So if you can really look at that fear and find some kind of gratitude in it, it will help start to shift your perspective on it. The next thing is to, a couple ways that you can work through these feelings about these fears. Journaling, doing a brain dump. So sitting down and literally just writing whatever comes to your mind when you think about these fears, whether you think it's a valid feeling or not, whether somebody else would think it was crazy or not, it doesn't matter. Just do a brain dump, write it out, get it out of your head. It is so freeing to just let those words run out of your mind like that, so that you can really kind of detach from them in a sense. The next thing is to, once you write these out and you do this brain dump, to think about what are these fears holding you back from? So what what are you missing out on gaining by not facing these fears? And this is a huge one. And I know that in terms of our business, I think about a lot that I would never have had the ability to influence people. I never would have had the opportunity to be home with my son. I probably wouldn't even know half of you guys if I had never faced those fears that I had as a new coach. So think about the things that these fears are holding you back from. And then on the flip side, I want you to think about, and I want you to visualize what it would feel like if you were to overcome these fears. How would things change for you? How different would you be? How much more confident would you be? How much more self-assured would you be that you have the ability to help other people overcome fears that they have, or struggles that they have? So really think about what it would feel like if you faced that fear and you were just like, damn, I did it. I finally, after so long, I did this. What would that feel like for you? Because if you're anything like me, those fears have been built up for a long time. The next thing is to talk about it. So just like you typed in the comments, talking about it is a good thing. It's not, I don't think it's healthy to act like we have no fears, because everybody does. I'm sorry, guys. I think that it's a really brave thing when you're able to voice your fears and be open and honest about them, because it goes back to step number one of the awareness and the acknowledgement that you have them is the first step to be able to move past them. So reach out to somebody on this team. Talk to one of your best friends that you know and you trust, and just talk about these fears that you have. Because sometimes all you need is an outside perspective that you can overcome this, and that it's okay to feel that way, but you can move past these things. Yes, Declan. He just likes to scream when he hears me talking. The next thing is to read or to listen to personal development on audio, whatever that is. And that's a big reason why we harp on personal development all the time. It is not just about making you think differently, but it's about helping you develop courage to look at the world and look at, your perspective from a different view. So get inspired. And when you're in this place of inspiration, and if you've read a book or read, a page of a book that you just were like, wow, that makes so much sense to me. Like, dang, I'm so glad I read that. Or you felt so inspired from it. When you have those moments, those aha moments that you feel so lit up and so inspired and so motivated, I personally think that is when you are most powerful to face fears or to think about ways that you can progress past them. So staying constantly inspired by doing personal development every day or doing things that light you up and help you feel motivated are, kind of those building blocks that you need to continue to have the courage to little by little face these fears. The next thing is to write down 3 action steps for each fear that you have. 3 things that you can do, that you can take right now or in the next week or in the next month that are going to help you move past this fear. Because often, hold on, guys. All right. Okay, so 3 action steps that you can take to move past these fears. And why I say 3 and maybe on a smaller scale is because sometimes you're not ready to just go in for the kill and face a fear head on. So say that you have something about your story that would be really impactful, but you're really afraid to get vulnerable and share that on Facebook. Something you could do is you could write this out in a journal. You could share it with a friend or a family member or one of the coaches on the team or me or whoever, but sharing it with somebody that you feel a little bit more comfortable with, but it's still pushing you out of your comfort zone a little bit. If you have a fear of speaking, like I did. You can sit in front of your computer, look at a video, and talk to yourself until you get a little bit more comfortable with it. Then maybe you can make a short video and you can send it to one of the coaches on the team, or you can send it to me. But taking, inching yourself forward in different ways to move a little bit, closer to overcoming that fear is sometimes more helpful than, like I said, just going all in and facing it. The next thing is that I really feel like you have to face fears in moments of when you feel brave. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, guys. Laura, can you talk for a minute?
Well, I was going to talk after anyway, so maybe just a minute, buddy. Yeah, show daddy. I was going to talk a little bit about, I guess, like two of my main fears, and they definitely like drive my actions on a daily basis. And one of them that has gotten so much better is my fear of being judged. And I remember like before Beachbody, basically, I used to be, I still am a runner, and that's something I've always been really proud of and felt great about. And prior to becoming a Beachbody coach, I never dared really to post. I'd posted the occasional run on Facebook, but I just felt like I was bragging, or like people were going to judge me or think I was silly if I was doing that. Well, Beachbody kind of turned my mindset about that, and I had to start posting. And I feel like that's part of, like, I think that people have fears, and I think sometimes you have excuses for your fears, and you just kind of let them get the best of you, and you kind of just have to accept that those are valid. And Dana was saying earlier that you're not born with fears, and getting to a different point. But one of my other fears, obviously, is just like never living up. And that started at a really young age for me. So I feel like everyone, maybe you're not born with them, but some of us have fears from a very young age. My earliest memories are of fear of not being good enough, of not matching up to my sister, and all of those types of things. So if you imagine that you've had those fears for 35 years, it's going to take a while to overcome them, but that's not an excuse to like let them stomp on my joy, basically. So I guess I feel like I'm rambling in that section a little bit, but my other fear, and Dana and I talked about this quite a bit today, is just like not being enough for my children. And I often and I talked to some of my coaches about this too, but like the just finding balance with, wanting to go all in with this business. And it's something I've wanted to do and have been, maybe half-assing it, if you want to call it that. But it's me trying to find balance with being enough of a mom and being happy enough with where I'm at, mothering my children. And the reason I'm doing this is to be present for them. So finding a way to merge the two and feeling competent in both, because I think often if we let one override the other, then we feel like we're failing somewhere, and then we just don't feel good. So I guess my fear is I don't want to look back and not feel like I'm enough. So I've, Kelly and I'm not on the schedule with her right now, but we'd been doing really well. She had been motivating me to get up early so I could get a lot of my work out of the way prior to my kids waking up, which then I felt like I could be really present for them. So it's just kind of figuring out what your fears are and kind of figuring out solutions to them. But in terms of like fear of Facebook and posting and all that kind of stuff, I feel like you just have to say, you kind of have to like throw it out there. And just, I've had maybe like one or two people say like, oh, I was trying to hide you because I'm sick of seeing more of you than I do of my own family or something. I've had like one or two of those to like 50 of people who write me and say, you're so inspiring. I know I never post on your posts, but you inspire me every day. And whether they're on my team or not, like, I don't care. That's my purpose being present on Facebook, is to inspire and help others to lead a healthy and happy and grateful and satisfying life. So I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling, Dana. I kind of just went with what I would plan to talk about.
No, that was awesome. I think that fear of balance is very present for a lot of us as
It
moms.
is.
And I honestly don't think that that's something that ever goes away, because kids are always ever changing. So are schedules. So is our business. So are we as people. And it's always just constantly trying to find what works, where we feel most present in all areas. But I just want to go back and finish the last two things, and then you guys can hear from Kelly as well. But what I was saying was that, and just what Laura mentioned as well, in aspects mostly to sharing on social media, or even inviting to your challenge groups personally, or inviting to the coach opportunity. It just takes 1 second of being brave, literally 1 second, 1 second for you to click post on a post that you've written, 1 second to press send on a message to an invite to your challenge group, 1 second of being brave to write somebody and say, hey, I love your vibe. I would love to tell you more about what I do with coaching, how it's changed my life, because I think it would be an awesome opportunity for you. Literally 1 second of being brave. It takes for you to really face those fears. And I can't tell you how many times over the past 2 years that I have literally closed my eyes as I hit posts on things, because there are things that I never, ever in a million years would have thought that I would put on social media for thousands of people to see. But like Laura said, when you get those messages from people, thanking you for inspiring them, thanking you for, being a light in their life because they don't have a lot of positivity in it right now, or thanking you because now they're, doing well on their journey, and they feel better as moms or as wives, or just as, themselves in general. They feel better in their own skin. They feel happier, whatever it is. There is so many things that make it worth being brave. And so what I guess the key is to this, it's not just being brave, but it's detaching yourself from what the outcome is. Because if you're going to take a chance and face a fear and do something brave, you're never going to do it if you're so worried about what the outcome is going to be. If you're so worried about what people are going to say when you post it on social media, if you're so worried about what other people are going to think.
Well, I was going to say too, Dana, really quick, sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like some of my coaches will look at my post and say, oh, like you're so good at writing or whatever it may be. But like, I've definitely written quite a few posts too that have gotten zero traction and nobody's commented and it's gone nowhere. And you have to not be deterred by that. It doesn't mean that you don't try again and try to like share your story and open your heart to people, because some of your stuff is going to touch certain people and some of it's not. And I know even the other day, Dana like texted me and was like, oh crap, I don't think that post really gave out what I meant it to give out. It's the whole like failing forward thing. Like you just have to try and like, I don't know, I write a lot of mine out at night, but like speak openly about how you feel and how the process makes you feel. And some of your stuff is going to touch a lot of people, and some of it you're just not going to know if it's touching people because they're not posting. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means you didn't fail because you put yourself out there. So sorry.
No, I think that's a good point. And I honestly, because that is something I know you and Kelly and I still are always like, damn, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. But that's how you learn. That's how you grow. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, you putting it out there is helping you progress in your own personal journey, whether it was impactful to other people or not, because it's you being brave. It's you owning your story. It's you owning your life. It's you finding your voice. Finding your voice is huge. It is so important for happiness in all aspects of your life. So being brave and then detaching yourself from the outcome, but more often than not, you're going to find you get a positive reaction from it. And then that fear starts to melt away, because you're like, I don't even know why the hell I was so scared to share this before, because look at all the positive feedback I'm getting from it. And like Laura said, you're going to have haters and doubters and naysayers along the way. I still have quite a few of them, or people that say nasty things, or people that bash network marketing, or people that don't understand what we do. But I look at this in a sense that, honestly, I didn't understand Beachbody before I was a coach. I didn't understand what it was like to have purpose and passion in your life. I didn't understand what it was like to get up every day and be focused on helping other people. So I can't blame people that bash this, because they just don't get it. And sometimes they don't get it. And they probably never will, because they aren't brave enough to take a chance and be a part of something like this. So you never know where people are at in their lives and why they have the perspectives they have. But know that if you do have people giving you negative backlash, that more oftentimes than not, that has to do with their own issues and their own perspectives, and nothing to do with you. Nothing. You're just somebody that's an easy target to take it out on because you're sharing on social media. So the next thing is that and this is really the last thing, but I want to encourage you to find a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose of overcoming these fears. I know that for me, I think about, like Laura was saying, is she enough for her kids? I think about that a lot as a single mom. Am I being a good enough role model for my son? Am I showing him how to live a life of values and morals that I am proud of? Am I being the best version of me and facing fears and overcoming obstacles and all these things so that one day he will learn to live like that too? And if you're not a parent, you can think about this in terms of your family or your friends or even your social media network, because whether or not people end up becoming a customer or challenger of yours, the bottom line is that we are influencing people. We are in a position and have a platform right now to literally impact so many people. And for me, the real reason behind why I'm so hell-bent on facing fears is not just, from a place of selfishness that I want to become a better version of me, that I feel like I have to push myself to overcome these fears because I want to see who the hell I'm capable of being if I continue to do that. Because I'm so different than I was 2 years ago. But I also want other people out there to know that that is possible. Because you guys, if you think about it, if you scroll on your Facebook on a day-to-day basis, how many people do you see that are complaining about stupid things? They're frustrated with their lives. They're negative. They don't like their jobs. They're struggling financially. They bitch about traffic. They complain about whatever. There is so many people out there that are miserable, that are not really living their lives. They are just existing and living mediocre. And we have the power to change that. We have the power to influence people. And I think when you think about it in terms of that, it really comes down to having that heart, that servant's heart, to want to live life on purpose and do something on purpose, and know that your life and your story and your words and the courageous things that you do, they matter. They matter to so many more people than you could probably ever imagine. And if you never face those fears, you will never, ever see what kind of an impact you have the ability to make. And I just want to throw this in there because it kind of ties in, is that when you face fears, you set yourself free. I know that for so many years of my life, I was so unhappy with so many different things in my life, and it trickled into my relationships and feeling unfulfilled in, jobs or careers, or, when I was a new mom thinking, oh my God, I am not cut out to be a mom. Like, I am so totally not ready for this, to have somebody look up to me for everything. And it was because I was too dang afraid to face fears, and that held me back in every aspect of my life. And it wasn't until I started facing them one by one that I started to see that they weren't legitimate. They weren't anywhere else than what I had created them to be in my mind. And I also want to add in here that when you're building a business and you are building a team, because this is a part of why I think this is so important, is that when you are bringing people onto your team to lead, you can never expect people to do things that you are not doing. And this goes for challengers as well. So if you are too afraid to, post sweaty selfies in your challenge groups, or you are too afraid to talk about that you are not perfect and you fell off and you ate chocolate ice cream on a Friday night. If you are too afraid to be honest with things that you are struggling with, that you are going through, fears that you have, doubts that you have, if you are too afraid to share those things, or if you are too afraid to overcome fears that are holding you back in your business, that is setting an example for the people that you lead as well. And Kelly and I just talked about this yesterday, because this is something we both do, is that when we have something we are afraid of, but it's something that we want to accomplish, we often share it vocally with our teams or with each other, because we know that once we put it out there, that we are going to hold ourselves to doing it. So if you need accountability when it comes to overcoming fears, do that. Ask one of us to hold you accountable to doing something that you're afraid to do. Because I know that when you don't have the courage to overcome fears, it's going to be really hard for you to teach your teams as you bring people on to how to do that. If you're too afraid to post a before and after picture on social media, how are you going to teach coaches on your team to do that? So think bigger that facing these fears is not only helping you in your personal life grow as a person, but it is also helping you touch more lives, impact more people, and it is also helping you be able to become a better leader, whether you are leading one person or 20 people right now. So think about this as setting yourself free, and on a really big scale, because these little things really matter. Kelly, do you want to go ahead and share, since it's almost 9:15 now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have to share. I feel like you told me to give my top 3 tips and then you covered all my tips. So I don't know if I have anything new, but I'll go for it. I guess I totally agree with a lot of things Dana said. I was actually looking at I did a call about fear not too long ago as well, and I was looking through it. But the main thing for me, I feel like it's been a little bit different. And I don't know if you guys can relate to this feeling or not, but for me, when I got started, my fear of what my life would look like if I didn't face fears that were related to another area of me growing or my business, if I didn't face the fears that I knew I could, my fear of what that life would look like as far as me going back to work and not being with my kids, that fear was greater. So it pushed me to grow in other areas that I ultimately, I did want to grow in. I knew I needed to grow in those areas too, but that's what encouraged me to face all of those fears to start. And I just want to ask you guys a question, and I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be yes if you guys are showing up on this call, but do you want your life to be changed? And do you want to be, is there something in your life you want different? And do you want to be successful in this business? And if the answer is yes, then you have to realize that the only way it's going to change is to face fears. And so a lot of times when I think about my fears, or I think about, hey, I don't want to post, I don't want to make a video. I was telling Dana, that's actually how it started. When we were talking about, I announced my fear, I announced publicly in the team page that I was going to do a live video. And I was like, man, I committed to that before I even really thought about what that meant. And then I'm like, I'm not going to bail and not doing it. I already told everyone I was doing it. So that was actually one of my tips, was announcing it publicly, and letting people know that care about you or that depend on you, like your challengers or your team, because you're not going to let those people down. And so announcing it publicly was my first tip. But I think when you step out of that comfort zone and you grow, you're becoming that person that you know that you want to be. And I lost my train of thought of where I was actually going with that. But you can't, like, you have to realize at one point that there's no possible way that you're going to grow into that person who has those crazy goals that envision for their lives that I know you guys all have, if you've taken the time to really map out your why, unless you take the time to really say, okay, I'm going to do this. That person that's 5-star or that's home with their family or whatever your vision is, that person would do this thing. And that's what I think all the time. I'm like, well, is this fear going to go away if I don't do it? No. I still hate inviting. Like, I still do sometimes. Like, I think to myself, is the fear of inviting ever going to get better if I don't do it? No, it's actually going to get worse. It's going to make it worse. So the only way, and that was actually my tip number 2, is you got to just do it, because you have to realize that the only way it's ever going to feel easier is by doing that thing. You're going to hold on to that fear, and that fear is going to actually gain more and more and more and more power because it's controlling you. Like, you're letting some fear control your life. And the only way it's ever going to get better is to just take action. And then how good does that feel when you're like, hell yeah, I did that thing. I conquered that fear, and that thing doesn't scare me anymore. And that's why, I made the video the other night, because I was like, I was telling Dana the other day, I was like, I feel like I've conquered all these fears, and I'm sort of sitting in this place where I'm like so much more I'm like Facebook posting, man, whatever. Like, I'm doing all these things where, like, before I was scared out of my mind. Sorry, kids, I know. But now I'm like, I gotta grow. I gotta do more. I gotta keep going, because that's how you gain your power. And the last thing I just wanted to talk about was the being a giver versus being a taker. Like, when you're posting, and this kind of relates to fear of being judged, but anything in your life, if you're thinking like, okay, by sharing my story, what am I giving someone else? Like, what power am I giving someone else? What help can I give someone else to make a change because they related to what I said? Like, guys, it like gives me chills, and still like can't even believe it. Like, how many people reached out to me after my video and were like, you finally gave me the courage to reach out to you. Like, I can't even believe that people said that to me, but it's because I just gave. Like, I wasn't looking really for anything. I was just sharing and like my heart, and cried on live social media almost. So just realizing, instead of thinking, hey, what can this do for my business? What can this do for me? Think, what can I give to someone else to make a difference? And then, yeah, I mean, everything else Dana pretty much covered, so I'll stop jabbering.
I love that last one. That last one is huge. And it just, I don't know, I guess it just really reinforces what I was saying about having, this has to be for a bigger purpose. Like, it can't just be like, well, I'm going to share this on social media because I'm going to hope that I'm going to sign 3 people up from it. It has to come from a place of genuinely wanting to better other people's lives, or inspire them, or help them through something in their journeys, no matter what the outcome is. Like, we talked about detaching from the outcome. So that was awesome. Thank you, Kelly and Laura. Does anybody else on the team want to share anything that, any fear that you're facing right now, or something that has helped you overcome fears that you already have? If you do, feel free to unmute yourself. Pretty sure that everybody has faced a fear at some point, because most people are scared to even sign up as a coach. So no? Okay. All right, guys. Well, I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that it gives you some insight of why it's important to push past fears, that you are capable of pushing past these fears, and how incredible it is going to feel once you do these things. But sometimes it takes some soul searching and some being really brave before you're ready to. And like Kelly said, I think was a really awesome point, is that the longer you hang on to fears, the stronger that they become. Time is not on your side when it comes to fears. The more that you sit with something, the more that it kind of festers and creates deeper thoughts and deeper emotions about it, and breeds even more fear. And that is the quote that I've shared with you guys a couple times that I just want to say again, is that hesitation breeds fear and action cures fear. So if you want to overcome those things, use the steps we talked about tonight and take some action to overcome them. If you guys share something on social media, or if you do something that you are fearful of, please share it in the team page, because it's awesome for everybody to see what everybody else is overcoming. Just like Kelly shared about going live on a social media video and how much feedback she got from it. If you do something that you fear, please share it, because you never know who it's going to help on the team overcome one of their own fears. And that is what a team is all about. So thank you guys for hopping on tonight. We will see you next week. Bye, guys.